Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at what kind of valuable items Ainz Ooal had found during his little interference in the Elf Kingdom. But before we are going to do so, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. Now with that said, let's dive into today's topic and the items at hand. For the entire idea of Ainz Ooal, Aura and Mare going into the Elf Kingdom in order to take out the Elf King before the slain theocracy could do so was to kill steal, to collect all of the experience, all of the valuable items and information that the Elf King had held, so that the theocracy of slain couldn't get them. In essence, Ainz Ooal had just watched the theocracy of slain spend a massive amount of resources in order to finally end the Elf Kingdom. But the very reward for doing all of this will now go to Ainz instead of slain. And Ainz did this in order to avoid any item being collected by the state of the 6 great gods, who could at least potentially, at least this was the thinking of Ainz Ooal back at this time, become a potential threat to the Sorcerer Kingdom and the Great Tomb of Nezarec, simply because of its humanocentric worldview. But before Zeshi's mind was searched and Ainz Ooal was aware of what happened during the attack on Sheltir, and that Slain was to blame, he still wanted to avoid conflict, but he also wanted to assure that valuable weapons, like for example on the level of Razor Edge, a blade that can cut Ainz Ooal, even if wielded by low-level enemies and adversaries like Gazev Stronov. But of course the question then now is, what kind of items were found in the Elf Kingdom? What did Ainz Ooal receive? And we will start with a piece of gear that the Elf King himself had inherited from his father, a member of the 8 Great Kings. The 8 players who defeated the Dragon Lords in an apocalyptic war and also conquered the entire continent almost instantly. And this gear, a bow and quiver with unlimited arrows, was indeed quite valuable because it had managed to take out a dozen or so trained soldiers of Slain with just one shot. Indeed, each shot would produce multiple arrows guided by magic, and each shot was deadly in its precision and in its damage. And I say the bow because it was used by a young elf that happened to be just around 9 years old, if not even younger, at least from the appearance, and that was seen as weak, as a very weak and disappointing failure by the Elf King. And it was also quickly disposed of once the theocracy's units started a single counterattack. So the reason why dozens of men, let's say in their 20s level-wise, had fallen prey to the bow is because it is likely an Yggdrasilian item way too potent for it to be ever crafted in the new world. And the fact that Neabaraya's bow bestowed by Ainz Ooal can take out just one target in one shot, and that it didn't have homing missiles, much less multiple of them, might indeed imply that the bow Ainz just received is way stronger than Nea's bow. And since Nea's bow was fit for a level 50 character, the bow of the Elf King, or rather one of the 8 Great Kings, might be as strong as to be fitting for a player of level 60 all the way up to level 100. It could indeed be the spare gear, or even the main gear, of the father of the Elf King, one of the 8 Great Kings, a legitimate player, and as such, this bow alone has immense value. For it also allows Ainz Ooal to at least take an educated guess how strong the 8 Kings were, for it was uncommon for even level 100 players to have even a single item of the highest tier, meaning that if the bow is truly of the highest order, Ainz Ooal would know that the 8 Great Kings were actually quite above average players. Now, as far as the treasury vault of the Elf King itself goes, we can say that it was in part disappointing, because many items looked like they were crafted from low-tier material, but given the sheer amount of goods and the fact that Entomor was still sorting them when Ainz retreated from the Elf Kingdom with Aura, Mare and Zesshi, we can assume that there will be quite a few items here and there that will be somewhat powerful at least. And judging by the fact that the Elf King handed out gear from his father to his kids in order to power level them, we also could assume that some gear, at least some gear of his father, again, could be potentially still be out there, simply because not all of his kids might have been in the elf capital at the time where the slain theocracy had attacked, and most certainly, if they were there, Ainz Ooal hasn't met them, so some of them could still wander the great forest of Ivasha with some of the best gear on the entire continent. And lastly, Ainz Ooal had also captured Zesshi and the Elf King's body, meaning that some of the gear of the 6 great gods, for example Soshana's Sight, known as Charon's Guidance, and Neko's White Armor, the gear of the God of Wind, has also been captured by Ainz Ooal. And due to the gear specification, Ainz could also draw some conclusions on how strong the 6 players who founded the theocracy were, and that there's likely more player equipment where Zeshi's gear came from. And lastly, the Elf King will also likely have worn some of the best gear that his father had left behind, meaning that aside from the bow, Ainz Ooal will also have access to the other equipment of one of the great kings, allowing him to estimate the strength of them far better than just by the example of a single bow. Also, the Elf King had been around for centuries, and it is very likely that whatever the Elf King had killed and looted would have its gear stolen by him, meaning that Ainz now also should have access to many worthwhile gear of the Elf King's enemies. And remember, the Elf King was fathered by one of the 8 great kings, in a time where there should at least be here and there some strong enemies left. So, there should be quite a bit of history to be found in the treasury vault of the Elf King. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, Bad Guy Yi, Bad Burrito 316, B There, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Hat, Hector Marino, Hoss, Haster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia Viffy Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Love Razor, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantom, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrinekeeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss Rak Edsmesher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venger Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.